Welcome back to the Relentless Growth Podcast with myself, Chase Calhoun, and my good friend, Jack Maher. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Doing great this morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just trying to get things rocking and rolling for the day. Today, we're going to talk about the ROI of showing up in the communities that we're doing business. So we'll probably touch on, I'm sure, anything from just trying to be involved and show up, for city type events or things going on with the cities we're doing business, but then maybe also stuff as far as, volunteering or being involved in other type of projects that are going on in the communities where we do business and live and work. Before that though, let's get started with a win and maybe an update like always. So what's going on with you? What's a win for this last week and what's going on in your world?
Yeah, well, I think I touched on it in the last episode, but my big win is personal and probably doesn't really need to be talked about. But my daughter is potty trained, and so it's a big deal in my world. So that's been a big win for sure. And then kind of an update work wise. We've actually had finally a stretch of halfway decent weather. So we're making a lot of progress on development projects, on getting some outside work done. And so that's been a refreshing change from the wettest summer that I can remember. And so that's been the biggest update. We're just for everybody out there, we're in Spring Hill, Tennessee. So we're about 30 minutes south of Nashville. And so we develop multifamily, and so we're able to get a couple sites a lot farther along in the past 3 weeks than probably we did over the past couple of months. And so that's definitely been the biggest win in our world. But what about you, Chase?
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, the weather it's been hot here, hot and dry.
Yes.
We finally got a little bit of rain. It cooled off a little bit, but it's still been very hot. I think a win for me this week. I'm going to go with our property management kind of team. We made the switch over to a new property management software kind of ways of doing things a couple months ago. And it's funny. It's like you don't realize how smooth everything's going until you have to rip the way of doing it out and replace it with a different way. And so stuff was kind of like breaking and showing stress in a lot of different areas. And I feel like we're finally coming out of the other side of that. And so it's like we're starting to get more traction with getting our lease ups, getting our lease ups and our occupancy back up to where it was prior to that switch over. And then finally got caught back up on all the maintenance requests, and everybody's kind of running well on it. So it's exciting to see it running more smoothly now than it was during that initial switchover. And then just updates where we are clearing lots on our kind of failed development that we bought early last year in preparation for our single family homes with attached ADUs, which are very similar to a duplex, but just something that's going to be allowed by right by the state. Getting a little bit of pushback from the city and a lot of pushback from the neighbors, and so I'll be curious to see how it all shakes over. The law officially went into effect 2 days ago, and so we pulled the permit like the day before, and I can tell there's a little bit of panic by the city because we're the first ones, obviously, to try to do it. And so I just happened to be down there yesterday and ran into one of the city officials and had a good conversation with him. So I think everybody's on board. It's just everybody's scared to be the one to say yes. And so it'll probably end up going all the way up to the city attorney's office or the city manager's office for somebody to make a decision. But hopefully they give us the go ahead this week and then start moving forward with that. So it's exciting.
Oh, that's great. That's a big deal.
Cool. Well, I guess, to piggyback off of that a little bit, we're going to get into how being involved or showing up in the cities we do business with can make a positive impact. I don't know if it's something that's like super measurable, but one thing I do, like I'm aware of, is we initially went through the entitlement process, and we're kind of shot down at Planning Commission for rezoning. It was pretty clear to me after the fact that I think we would have been more proactive and kind of been more involved and try to reach out and spend some time getting to know some of the city, not just the city officials. Like we've got a good working relationship with the city officials in Little Rock, but maybe some of the planning commission members and or city council members, we probably would have had more success. And so now as we're looking at projects in other communities, we're looking at trying to maybe get in front of that and be a little bit more involved in the front end instead of just showing up with a project project and saying, this is who we are without anybody knowing us. Do you guys? I mean, you guys have been operating in the same city for a really long time, so I'm assuming that you guys have a bunch of experience with this. But what has been your take on how to do that effectively?
Yeah, sure. Effectively, I'm not sure that we do that, but
Or
we
try to
do it
do
to
it
the best,
effectively?
do it to the best of our ability. Yeah, I mean, to us, the community aspect is a big part, and I think it's in a couple different avenues because you really have every city's broken up. You've got a lot of different groups of people who have an impact on the community. So, like Chamber of Commerce or something like that is kind of one segment. And so we're involved with there. We sponsor the Chamber of Commerce. We, attend meetings, speak at meetings, do those things. And so that, that covers, I'll call it the business aspect of the community. You've got business owners there, but then you're really, if that's all you do, you're not covering the general population of the city. And so, now, not that I think a lot of what we do is altruistic, but, we're involved with charities, with different things, with sponsoring events that the community can attend to. We put on a festival every year, our company does, and we partner with a nonprofit to run that. And so, getting out to the general population is kind of a second window, I would say, and then the third one is the cities. Whether it's aldermen or city councilmen, city staff, and that one definitely is, to me, the most challenging because you have the most turnover. You've got new people getting elected all the time. At least in our city, we've had a lot of turnover in staff, and so it's tough to keep those relationships going when there's just new people in the door. And so that's the one that might matter the most, but is generally a little bit harder to do just because of the nature of what it is. You've got new people getting elected, new people working in the city. So those are kind of like the three buckets that I see, and we can kind of dive into them. But I think it plays a big role, and it's amazing how much it can impact your business if you go about it the wrong way, I think.
Well, I think again, me looking through the lens or the perspective of trying to help myself. Like for us, we're just getting kind of started in the development game. So we've been building, but it's all like in the past when we built, it's all stuff that we're not having to go to the city. It's pretty simple. Do the plans meet the requirements? Yes or no? If so, here's your permit. But as we look at doing more like entitlement or development projects, which one of those three buckets do you think is the most important to kind of start with? And I guess how so for people getting started?
Yeah, I think probably the most impactful, especially if you're trying to do developments, get things approved, is city officials, city staff. Um, I think city staff is an important one. Just they're kind of the gatekeepers in a way of you need them to maybe not fully support your project, but understand it. And so, especially with something like your ADUs, that's a tough one. In general, cities don't like being told what to do. That's just the nature of it. They
Make
like
that very clear.
they like to be in control, and so and we've had situations like that where you have to do something, or it's the right business decision to do it, but it takes the decision out of their hands. And so, I think the more positive interaction, the more other things you've dealt with them on, the better that goes over, because they know that, hey, you're not here just to do this and make a quick buck and leave. You're here. This is a good project. It's for the community, but you're also going to do another project next year and another project. And that's where I think we hear the biggest feedback from the cities is just, we talked about it a little bit on our last podcast with zoning and approvals. We're not here to get one project approved and leave. Neither are you. We're here to do projects over and over and over. And so we've got to keep a good relationship and work with the city. And so I think when tough things come up, it's easier to deal with if you establish those relationships. And generally, it's just about doing the right thing. You know, the cities hear things like we have a great relationship with all of our inspectors from the city. If they tell us to fix something, we fix it. So I think it starts all the way up at the bottom where you've got to maintain a positive relationship with every aspect of that, because those things are going to come back. Where if their inspectors are communicating all the way up the chain that, hey, these guys, they don't do the right thing, I'm constantly having to badger them on fixing X, Y, and Z. And then, they might be a little harder to deal with, whether they realize that or not. So I think going all the way through the process, everywhere up the food chain, having a positive relationship is going to help with those development things, because they know you're doing the right things for the right reasons, versus a company coming in from out of town and, pushing a big project through, but then, not doing the right things, but then they're off to the next state or the next city. And so I think that's the biggest part, is just being consistent.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing I've noticed, and we're starting to think about it more, is just not just where we think we should build as far as there's a need, but where there's also like a want by the city and the community and stuff. And that's one thing we're running into where we're at, is we're realizing there's a need here for housing, but whether or not the city wants it is sometimes tough to tell. And so it's like we're looking for communities that maybe are more proactively looking for those type of development projects. I don't know because I'm not in the commercial space, but I would suspect that if you're doing commercial development, so specifically like commercial retail type development or even hotels and stuff like that, there's probably a little bit more from what you're doing with city officials or city departments themselves. There might be a little bit more interest in having those kind of developments because they create a lot more money as far as like sales tax revenues and stuff like that. And so it seems with housing, it's one of those things where it's like, unfortunately, some of these cities, there's a need for affordable housing everywhere, but not everybody wants affordable housing like in their communities per se. And so for us, I think it's trying to identify those communities where it's not just the city, but it's also the kind of the people who live there are asking for that. And then again, I think when it comes to like some stuff that we're doing, that's just like small steps for us, but it's like we're looking at this development project in a new city. So it's like we're proactively going to go meet with the city, kind of like we talked about last podcast, ahead of time, to get their input on the project. So like the city officials can start to get to know who we are going in person. So like I could just send the engineer. I really don't need to be there. Like it's not going to do, me being there is not going to do any good anyways. It's going to be a lot of technical questions back and forth. The engineer would be 1,000% capable of handling that by himself. But I'm going to go just to kind of show my face, and so people can get to know who we are. And I'm going to take, Ryan, my director of operations, we're both going to go, not so much because we have to be there, but just because we can start to get to know some of these people in a place where we've never worked. And then I think we're even looking at, we spoke a little bit offline about this, but that same day, they're going to be, that city where we're looking at doing this project is going to be, their Chamber of Commerce is going to be doing an event with their economic development manager, specifically talking about their kind of vision for development in that community and stuff like that. And again, I'd be highly surprised if they were overly excited about housing development projects. They're probably more interested in the bigger, kind of sexy retail projects or, whatever that brings in a bunch of sales tax revenue for the city, but at least just going. And so people can start to see who we are and that we're interested in the community. And again, that it's important to us in those places where we're looking at doing business. And so I'll be curious to see if approaching it this way is helpful for us in the long run. I'm hoping it is.
No, I think you're spot on. I think just showing up is something, a lot of companies don't get involved like that, whether it's a cool, sexy project or, something that's necessary. And we fight the housing piece a lot. And it's an education point, although I don't know how successful we are at educating. But without rooftops, you don't get retail. It's the reality. They have to come first. And so we fight that here. We fight that in different cities we're trying to work in, where everybody says, I don't want a neighborhood. I want whatever it is, a Chick-fil-A, a Target, any number of amenities. And just the reality of how those businesses make their site selections is they need a certain number of rooftops in a given area with a given income. And the only way you get those things and keep moving those things in the right direction is with housing. And so it's definitely become, the ugly stepchild of development, a little bit of like, we're sick of housing. We don't want any more, but you don't get the things that you actually want without having housing. And so it's something that we constantly fight. And I think you bring up a good point of going to places where people want you. And it's something that we're pursuing right now too. And it's also a balance, it's finding the right place, because a lot of people want development. They even want housing, but their community can't quite support, you know, what it would take to mobilize to bring a project there. Um, and so it's finding that sweet spot of a city or a community that's growing at a enough of a rate to support a project, but not so high of a rate that they've decided they don't want housing anymore, which seems to be the sweet spots, And so we're working on that as well. But I think I'm hoping eventually the pendulum will swing the other way. I think housing has definitely become something that's undesirable right now for cities. But as costs continue to rise, as this trend continues, I really hope we get a swing in the other direction, because it's gonna be good for people, and that's what's really tough about these conversations is people need affordable housing, and it's the people who live in the communities, and it's kind of after people move in and they don't want anybody else to move there, it's a tough barrier to breach. But I think going to those communities where they do have a desire for it and they have a need for it is a key, and will continue to be a key for years to come.
Yeah, that's awesome. I 100% agree. The housing thing is it's a weird thing. It's like super needed. Everybody knows it's needed, but then like it's that whole maybe not in my backyard. Like they just don't want it in their backyard, and so it's a weird thing that I see very clearly. But it feels like a lot of people just kind of miss that. I love your point though about the retailers and the development that they want that brings sales tax revenue won't come there unless they have the housing to support it. We're also seeing a lot like Central Arkansas, the need for like good high paid labor here has been exploding with, especially with like manufacturing and stuff like that. And then also workforce housing or workforce type jobs coming here. But it's like, it's going to be hard for some of these big employers to bring all these jobs here. There's nowhere nice for the people to live. And so they all want the factory, the big, $100 million factory that's going to bring all these jobs, but it's like, they don't want the housing that's going to support those jobs. So it's interesting. Let's shift maybe over. And again, I think you guys do an excellent job at it. It's something like the charitable contribution and give back, something that's important to me personally, but is not something that we've really ventured into yet as a company. So what are some of the ways that you guys are like giving back specifically like to the community as a whole? So not necessarily just donation type stuff, but like some the events that you guys are doing for the community as a whole that you think are impactful, and how that's gone for you.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, there's a couple things, and my dad gets the credit for starting all this stuff. Like we've been doing a scholar athlete sponsorship, where we take submissions from the local community. It's published in a newspaper, and they're entered to win like a scholarship at the end of the year. And so it's athletic achievement and academic achievement. And so we do a scholarship for kids. We've had that festival for almost 20 years as well. That it's got booths, it's got crafts, it's got a stage where sometimes local talent plays, and so we put that on once a year. It's coming up. It's in October, and so those are two kind of like community focused things. And then on the charitable side, we're very involved with a local food pantry. We've helped them build out 2 locations, and I sit on the board there. And so that's something where how we look at it and how we always talk about it is we're only successful because of the community we live in. We're fortunate to live where we do. And so we feel like there's a responsibility to give back as a part of that. And so, and I don't say any of this stuff to toot our horn. It's just stuff we've been fortunate enough to do. So we're involved with that. Like they just built a new police station here in Spring Hill, and it's awesome. It's beautiful. And the thing that wasn't in the budget was equipment for their fitness room. So we were able to provide that. And so, there's just little opportunities that arise over time. And we just built a little room inside the library for them to have classes in. And so it's just once you're involved in the community, you hear of little needs here and there. And it's easy and it's fun to fulfill them. And it gives your people and your company a chance to get involved in things, to give back. And what we hear from it, I think is, and it's not why we do it, but we hear from it, like the resounding line we hear is like, well, they're not like other developers, and that's what we want to hear, because developers do get a bad name. Some of it's warranted, by people who come in from out of town. Their incentives aren't aligned. They're going to get in, get out, and get to the next thing. And so by being involved, by satisfying needs, big or small, it really helps with public perception. And so that's just the reality of it. And again, it's not why we do it. It's not the end goal. But it does help. And so that's just kind of the reality of business, especially in a smaller community. Because those things matter. People talk, the community opinion really matters on a new project. And so I think it's a real key. And I think there's not an ROI. Like, if you talk about, well, if we do this and this and this, we'll get X, Y, and Z back. And it's not like that at all. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't in terms of like a strict money ROI. I would probably say there isn't, but there's a perception ROI. And so I think it's important that you do your best to maintain a positive reputation in the community.
Well, I think so for me personally, like when I think of business, I think reputation is so important, and especially like long-term reputation. And I don't think you can put an ROI on something like giving back to the community or even spending the time to be involved with some of these city meetings and stuff like that. But especially the give back stuff like the community events and the food pantry and stuff like that. Like you said, you guys aren't doing it for any real thing other than you want to help. But I think just that having that be known that kind of stuff is important for you guys, like it probably comes back in ways that you would never, like you never even know, right? But it's just like,
Sure.
It's those things that help build that like positive reputation for your company within the community.
And one thing I'll jump in on that I never expected, and it's happened a couple of times over the last couple of years, is it's really helped with recruiting people. We've had some people like who work for other national builders or things like that come to us and say, hey, like, we see what you guys do. I would rather work for you guys than work for them. And that's something I never even considered that. But I think that's like a fringe benefit of kind of being involved and separating yourself is it's made it a lot easier to attract talent. And like you said earlier, it's hard to get skilled workers. It's hard to get people right now. And so I think I never even considered that over the last couple of years as a recruiting tool, but I think it's kind of played out that way. And whatever advantage we can get to get good people in the doors is really big right now.
Well, people are the important part, especially trying to find them in this industry that are excellent. It's tough, so it definitely would help. That's awesome. And then I think the other thing that's just worth mentioning is a lot of this stuff. It's not like I think any of it, whether it's being involved in the community or dealing with the city officials or give back in the community and stuff like that. I don't think it's like like an immediate thing. Like I think if you go to one of these events or you try to show face and be kind to the people, the city that you're going to be working with, it's like it's not always just like okay, I showed up at this event now. It's going to pay off for me a week later or a month later. I don't think it works like that. It's like a consistent thing that over a long period of time is going to help move you forward in your business within those communities. But I don't think it's like a short term or instant thing. So, and the only this is kind of a funny one that we've done in the past. The only one I can think of where it is more of a short term or an instant thing. But there's been situations where it's like we have something that's in front of like a department at the city that's like we know it's going to get pushed through or whatever. It's not like a contentious thing or anything like that. But it's just hey, you're gonna have to get in line and wait type deal, and we'll get to it when we get to it. I try to remind myself that a lot of these people that work for these cities and stuff aren't necessarily the highest paid. And a lot of times they're overworked and stressed out and stuff like that. And this was actually like told to me it was my mom who used to work for a city. And I think I was complaining about something once. It's like they haven't responded to me, and it's been so many days, and I wish they'd just let me know. And she's like, send them some donuts, like send them a couple boxes of donuts and some coffee, and then follow up and watch watch how quickly they
Yep.
respond. And so sometimes just being kind and doing something, it's like we forget, like we'll do it for our employees, or we'll do it for a potential client or something like that. But just trying to treat some of the people that work in these cities with some, like as if they were part of the team or something, some lunch or some donuts or some coffee or something goes a long way sometimes. And just saying, not doing it, not saying, hey, I hope you get this done, but just, hey, we appreciate how hard you guys work. And I know this can be stressful and stuff, and here, enjoy whatever on us. And so I think sometimes just doing small stuff like that can actually show up. And we've had that happen before, where it's like we can tell that we're adding extra work because of something that we messed up or something that's complicated or whatever. And just doing something kind for them can kind of go a long ways.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And it really is. I mean, whether it's people approving things, whether it's, uh, people who handle codes or getting plans approved, we deal with all those people, and those people are they hold the keys to our businesses, if we don't get permits in time, it slows down projects, and so, um, those relationships are important. And I think it's acknowledging that those people have a hard job, that they are overworked, that they do have a lot on their plate. I think a lot of people come at it from the perspective of, I live in this city, you work for me. I turned this thing in 2 weeks ago and I haven't heard anything, and it's just it's not fair to them, and it's not going to help you get what you want either. And so,
I don't think it
treating them
helps
with
at all.
respect. It's that simple. Treating them with respect, whatever it is, whatever small it is, however big it is. That's what they don't get a lot. They get hounded. You could not pay me any amount of money to work for a city government. You couldn't do it. It's a thankless job, but they're doing it, and so we need them. And yeah, just making sure that you communicate to them that you understand what they're going through. I think it goes a long way with just helping to get things through.
Cool. Cool. I love it. Any other final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
No, I mean, the only thing I would say is just, I think small and consistent is way more important than big and one time. I think, don't go out and do something crazy and then not do anything for 5 years. I would say, whether it's attending meetings, whether it's, donating to an event or a charity, whatever it is, I think doing something that means something over a consistent amount of time is the way to go about it. And so, and it's the genuine way to do it. It's not connected to a project. It's not connected to an event. It's because you care about your community. And so that would be my encouragement. Just start small, but start with something that's sustainable over time.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Again, if you get value out of this, please like or share the podcast. If you have any questions for us, so either topics you'd like us to touch on or just general questions, feel free to shoot them in the content or in the comment section, and or if you have any recommendations or ways that you think we could improve, we'd love to hear it. And then I guess we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one, Jack.
Thanks, guys. See you.